art program. And some of my professors were supportive of me. And one professor, who shall remain nameless, who sat down when I was writing out the proposals for this project and said, "Why would you want to do that? That's not work. What are you doing? You are doing nothing in this program." And I thought, okay, that's a really painful sort of way to look at art when it can be so many different things besides sitting in your studio and making work. And she was basically telling me what I was doing in terms of organizing a show was completely pointless. So, you know, nothing gets me going like getting angry. So that was great. It got me motivated to do more. But it was that strange experience of also, at the same time that I was a grad student, I was teaching a Filipino-American art history class at the University of San Francisco. And we took our students to a gallery in San Francisco that was run by a Filipino gallerist. And when she asked us what we were doing there, we said, "Oh, we're the Filipino-American art history class." She looks at us and she says, "Why would you want to teach that? That's such a minor subject." And so I feel like there's an education aspect here that's been a little missing. So I just wanted to address that on some levels. We can go to the first slide. And I'll move them a lot faster now. Last summer I was here for a month to sort of do some informal research, find out more about the Manila art scene yet again. But I also had a solo show of my drawings at Future Prospects Gallery in Cubao X. I had started this work in the US, and it's a whole body of work I've been doing around Filipino nursing and immigration. And in the US, I was showing this work for critique, and the commentary and the rhetoric was, "Why would you do that? Who's a nurse anyway?" Okay, I don't need to go further with that. And of course I showed it at Future Prospects, and they're like, "Okay, great, yeah, tell us something we don't know." But that was a really amazing reality check for me. It was just great to see how when you show work in different contexts, it absolutely shifts your perception of what you're doing, why it matters, whether it's relevant, and I felt like that was really, really important. So last summer I also ended up having an opportunity to organize a show of artists, Manila-based artists in California, so that kind of happened as well. What is my next slide anyway? Okay, so this is last night, so we're going to be working backwards in time, but essentially this comes down to why this matters in the simplest way, which is you can share work and you can go to a museum or a gallery and look at something, but when artists are engaging with other artists, like physically, directly, hanging out, drinking a San Miguel if it must be, we'll do that dirty work. But primarily it's about that kind of exchange and about friendships and alliances and what it means to actually be, the most, I guess it's kind of corny, but a global citizen, like making connections across difference or realizing there really isn't any difference at all. Next slide. So more of the same. Next one. So this is at Green Papaya Art Projects, which Pee-wee will talk about a little bit more later. It's not far from here. It's in UP Teachers Village. This is a piece by Mike Arcego, who is one of the artists in the Galleon Trade Project. I guess just to clarify, what Galleon Trade is, as it's existing in Manila this month, is 3 different exhibitions in 3 different galleries. The first opening was on Tuesday night at the Magnet Space, the new Magnet Space at the Fort. Last night was the opening for 5 more of the artists at Green Papaya Art Projects. And tomorrow night is the final opening, which is another 5 artists at Magnet Cafe, Katipunan. So you guys can walk over there, which is a nice luxury. But Mike Arcega did this piece about 1.5 years ago, I'd say. It's called El Conquistador, and it is a Spanish galleon made entirely out of manila folders. He waterproofed it, he sailed it in one of the bays in the San Francisco area, and he made a video and some wall drawings related to this piece. So I feel like there's this thing about how artists can play with history in ways that maybe other disciplines cannot, and really interrogate it and reinvent it according to their own whims. And I thought this was just such a wonderful piece. Next slide, please. This is us installing work at the Magnet Fort Space. God, this has been a busy week. I think this was on Monday. This is a work by artist Richard Godinez. He was born in California. His father is Mexican. His mother is Filipino. He's like the Galleon Trade Project come to life. But his work is very, coming from that place of being the child of immigrants, but growing up in California and seeing a lot of the inequities there. His work is very, very political, and it addresses who doesn't have a voice in California and who does. Next slide. A little tricky to see this one. I'll let Stephanie perhaps talk about it later. But this is Stephanie Seruko's video, Platoon, where she actually went into the feature-length film, and it's obviously set in Vietnam, but filmed right here in the Philippines. And she removed everything except the Philippine landscape. So, is that about right? Okay. So it's so much about when is the Philippines merely a backdrop to something else, and when can we bring it back into the foreground? Next slide. This is artist Julio Cesar Morales. We're installing his work at Katipunan even as we speak. And actually this video will be showing in the gallery. And he's done a lot of work. He's from Tijuana, Mexico, and a lot of his work is addressing informal economies like street vendors and the marketplace. And so, but what I think is wonderful about his work is that it interfaces this sort of very analog, you know, working class culture with digital media and new media, and puts it into this realm of privilege that most people don't ever think to encounter this kind of work in. Next slide. Let's go maybe one forward. This is Rihanna Estrada's work, and this is her work as it is in Green Papaya Art Projects right now. Rihanna is quite possibly the most obsessive compulsive person I've ever met. She's also a very good friend of mine. But this is one aspect of a large body of work she's done where she layers clear plastic, clear packing tape, you know, the wide stuff that's used for boxes, and layers it and shapes it and sculpts the tape itself into all these ornamental forms. And I think it speaks so much to the nature of shipping and of motion, and even tape is a sort of a bad pun, like it's a recording device. Like each time she pulls out a piece of tape, her skin cells and her DNA get stuck in the tape as well, and so it becomes strangely autobiographical as well. Next slide. Okay, Pee-wee. I'll let Pee-wee talk about this work, but we're shifting now to a couple of artists that are based here, and just some of the amazing things that I saw last summer. And Pee-wee's work is at once absolutely elegant and also very political. It mixes a historical form such as painting with assemblage, with mixed media, and I find that he interrogates history in a really fascinating way and pushes that right up against the border of contemporary political current events. So can we clarify, this was like the image of the bomb being dropped by, yes, you know, 1944, good old US of A doing, yeah. And he did this piece around the time that the US began bombing Iraq, and so it was very much about addressing how history is repeating itself yet again. Next slide. I guess after meeting artists like Pee-wee last summer, I organized this exhibition in Berkeley. This is called Manila Envelope because I have a really poor sense of humor. Next slide. And this is a manila envelope that Jerry Chan made for the show. He sent me an email saying he was sending me a manila envelope. I'm like, great. So the envelope arrives at UC Berkeley, and I look at it, and then, next slide. I realized that what Jerry had actually done was he had faked the stamps. He had hand-painted them as meticulously as possible. So the piece became so much about deception and about transference and also about value in a very, very, very sly way. And I just thought that was just so wonderful. So, you know, go home and try to paint some stamps. Next slide. And this is Gary Ross Pastrana's piece. And I think one of the things that I noticed in a lot of the work that